Next on BYUSN, college football expansion talk is back. Like it or not, how quickly do we expect potential realignment to happen?
Plus, how aggressive do we want the Big 12 to be in conference realignment?
To the East Coast? Let's go coast to coast. Why not? We already are basically there. Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Tuesday, May 16th. I am Spencer Linton alongside a man who is well traversed from coast to coast. And as I said, Jarom, why not take it into the West? Just keep going, man. Well, this is called BYU Sports Nation.
Well, for BYU, yeah. Named Big 12 Sports Nation. On today's show, the latest and potential expansion news from Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated regarding the ACC, Pac-12, San Diego State, and more. Wrubell on season expectations, the women's soccer schedule, and the best picks from his European trip. The women's volleyball Big 12 schedule is out. We'll tell you what it is in a moment. Heather Olmstead joined me yesterday to talk about it from Egypt, as her team is on a foreign tour as well. And a former Cougar makes a Team USA roster. We'll tell you who here at today's headline.
Beginning with a former Cougar making a roster, but in the NFL, James Empey has signed a deal with the Tennessee Titans. He spent time with the Cowboys and most recently the Miami Dolphins on their practice squad. Part of 6 different players the Titans have added. That makes 22 different BYU players on current active NFL rosters.
Men's golf shot even par, good enough for 9th place after day 1 at the NCAA Regionals at the Institute Golf Club in Morgan Hill, California. Zach Jones led the team with a 3 under 69. Day 2 underway. Jones still at 3 under.
The BYU women's volleyball Big 12 schedule is out for all to see. It begins on Wednesday, September 20th against a team that was ranked nationally last year. Cougars versus Cougars in the Smith Fieldhouse, followed by Baylor at Texas, which is going to be just an epic showdown. And how about the 28th and 29th scenario, Jarom, there?
6 pairs of games against teams and then 6 single games.
Yeah, we'll break down much more of this. Of course, Texas is your defending NCAA champion, so to be in the conference with the defending champ says something. Loaded schedule, much more coming up. As Jarom mentioned, he goes one-on-one with Heather Olmstead to break down the full women's volleyball schedule.
5 teams finished ranked last year. That's second most to the Big Ten.
Amazing.
It was a really good women's volleyball conference. And Ronnie Jones-Perry, one of the greatest Cougars ever, and Copper Eels Grizzlies, one of 30 players on the USA Women's Volleyball Nations League roster. Perry will try to make one of the 14-team rosters in 3 different groups of play over the next several weeks, going to Turkey, Brazil, and South Korea. The United States will host the final in Arlington in July. Congrats to RJP.
All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. I feel like the Big 12 has already won.
He's got Stanley. Stanley inside the 5.
I'm confident the Big 12's in a great spot.
Leaping in the air and making the grab at the sideline.
What's Trending, presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. Expansion talk has resurfaced yet again, and most recently, based on an article that we have from Ross Dellinger, college football writer and insider for Sports Illustrated. He wrote discussing the next wave of conference realignment. In his article, he noted a few things, Jarom, and we bullet pointed the notables. Number 1, the Big 12 is looking to expand to 14 or 16 teams. This isn't really new. We knew that Brett Yormark was wanting to do that, but again, it has surfaced because of the recent developments. Expansion targets include the Arizona schools, Colorado and Utah from the Pac-12, as well as San Diego State, UNLV, Memphis, and UConn.
More targets. I love target.
The Pac-12 has a plan to add San Diego State in 2024 as well out there brewing. The Aztecs would owe the Mountain West $17 million in an exit fee that would triple in cost if they aren't added to a Power 5 conference, whether it's the Big 12 or Pac-12, by July 1st. So as well as the Magnificent 7 that has come into play, Jarom, out of the ACC.
That nickname's so bad. Who's saying NC State's magnificent?
They're looking for ways to get out of a media rights deal that feels like it's in place forever through 2036.
It's a 20-year deal, they say.
It's crazy. Yeah. So, based on the July 1st situation with San Diego State, and I feel like that is first and foremost because that has to happen now. I mean, we're we're just a number of weeks away from that. Do you expect something to happen with conference realignment before July 1?
Well, if San Diego State's going to go somewhere, yeah. They don't. Do they have 17 mil?
Oh, man.
Let alone 51 mil? I mean, that feels crazy. Okay, regarding expansion in the 14 to 16 teams, the ACC is interesting in this convo because they're getting restless. In fact, there was a report by someone from the Tallahassee Journal saying ADs were yelling at each other at a bar, at ACC spring meetings. Like, what? What's going on? They are stuck. Their grant of rights, their TV contracts, are with the ACC through 2036. They're trying to figure out if they can get out of it.
Yeah, they were meeting to discuss, and I quote, how unbreakable that contract really is.
It's like they just realized UCF is going to the Big 12. Like the Florida State AD's comments the other day about, wait a minute, why are Florida State and Miami going to make less than UCF?
It's unacceptable.
And again, for UCF, that's not immediately. That money is 2025. When it's a full share for everybody, the newbies. But the ACC doesn't have schools to pick from right now. That's not even an option. But if it became an option, certainly would be interesting for the Big 12. BYU's in a league that has 3 time zones. Brett Yormark said he wants to get to 4. San Diego State, Andorra, Gonzaga type would certainly help you in the West. If the any Pac-12 teams become available, certainly the 4 corners have been out there. Obviously, Oregon and Washington seem like the best 2. If I'm Utah, I want to stay in the Pac-12 because suddenly we're actually winning conference championships the last 2 years, and we're the best football program right now consistently. I would want to stay. I would not want to leave. And it's not even necessarily a TV money thing, which the Pac-12 contract, TV contract, is sort of going to dictate what happens, if anything, with the Pac-12. So, yeah, there's a lot that's up in the air. The San Diego State thing's interesting. The Gonzaga thing's interesting, too. It wasn't mentioned in the article, but Stuart Mandel of The Athletic told us a couple months ago it could happen in a couple weeks. It didn't. So we'll see what happens. I do fear, though, that the Big 12 becomes this sort of new WAC when the WAC went to 16 teams and it was all over the place. And it was like, this is really diluted. Obviously, you're adding Power 5 programs for the most part, or teams that very easily could be Power 5 programs. So it's different in that way, but I don't know. At some point, it just gets a little weird if it's too spread out. We'll see what happens with all this.
Well, how spread out was the WAC? Because it was primarily Texas and then to the west. So the Big 12 has already expanded beyond that, right?
Yes.
In terms of geography?
Yes, but you're also expanding into other forums. Like right now, it's like the Big 12 is like mostly like-minded institutions from red states that want to be in the league. As opposed to, well, we're the scraps from the other leagues that we just want a different, like Colorado jumped into a league that it didn't fit in. Colorado fits in the Big 12, like they still do to this day, for example.
It's a very liberal state.
Yeah, but I mean, their football and their tradition and all of that
is with the Big 12.
Is with the Big 12.
Sure.
Now, you can create new tradition, obviously, like sometimes you move to a new neighborhood and you get a new situation. I just think it could get weird quick. Like, just because you add other Power 5 teams doesn't mean it's a good move.
I think it's already weird.
What, in the Big 12?
Yeah, we've already kind of broached that by adding BYU and then going into Florida with UCF. I feel like we've moved beyond that barrier, so what's to say that adding San Diego State would make it that much different?
Well, like adding UConn, for example.
See,
that was brought up in this article. Adding UConn feels odd.
UConn's right there next to West Virginia, though. Like, West Virginia's just kind of out on an island in the Northeast.
Well, it's not a good football move, because their football stinks.
What if it's only basketball? I mean, it doesn't. Their football team isn't independent. What if it's an only basketball move to add UConn and their other Olympic sports? We don't know. That would be the same for Gonzaga, right? Because they don't have a football team.
Right.
I think Brett Yormark's just open to anything, but I'm with you. If they added UConn football,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that gets even more weird.
Whatever. Yes.
That gets even more weird. But the idea of adding San Diego State and, let's say, Colorado and bringing the Buffaloes back to their original Power 5 roots, so you have 2 more teams in the West, and then going and getting like a tandem from the ACC to get to 16.
They're not available.
They're not, but just the idea of that, when I first thought of that, I thought, UCF, if they had a couple of teams in Florida join them in the Big 12, that would make sense. That would be fun. So if Miami and Florida State hopped on along with UCF.
That'd be dope.
That would be incredible.
But they aren't available.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. They're booked to 2036.
The two teams that make the most sense to me, there are two pairs. There are two pairs of teams that make the most sense. San Diego State and Colorado as a package deal, or Arizona and Arizona State.
Sure.
Those are the schools that make the most sense to me, both for the Big 12 and I think for those schools. I'm with you. I think Utah has entered a nice place.
Why
in the
would they
Pac-12.
leave?
Maybe
They're a big dog there in football now.
I wonder how good they're going to be with everybody else seemingly bringing the tide up. Oregon and USC. Like, how much longer can Utah's reign continue when you have Lincoln Riley and the reigning Heisman Trophy winner?
Years. Like, they're gone.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. How much longer can that reign continue?
As long as Kyle Whittingham's there.
You think they'll be the top of the conference as long as
Who knows
he's there?
what Utah is after Kyle Whittingham? Who knows what Gonzaga is after Mark Field? Like their success has been obviously tied to that coach. Can Utah go get a big dog that comes in?
So you're not buying Oregon or Washington to overtake Utah, even when USC
Washington's
UCLA
had
leave.
one really good year the last decade. 2016, they made the playoff. Yeah, they're certainly a big brand. But yeah, Utah's in a good spot. If I'm Utah, I don't want to leave. We're like top dog here. We've gone to the Rose Bowl the last 2 years. It's awesome. Why would we entertain any thought of leaving?
I'm with you.
Even if it's for TV money. Granted, that is what it's all about at the end of the day. But at some point, like if BYU was in Utah's spot, we wouldn't want to leave. We'd be like, oh, we're like the kings of the league in football.
The thing that's going to make Utah or Oregon or Washington leave is if some other members of the Pac-12 jump ship and now you're down to 8. Then it could become problematic.
Then they had San Diego State and TBD, and you still hold on as
but you're 9
Power
or
5
10
league,
teams,
and you make less money, but you're getting an auto bid way easier in that league to the expanded playoff.
Yeah, I wonder how long that continues.
Do you want to be the fourth best
if you
team in
don't
the Big
have
12,
it? Like, will there be some type of delegation that comes in and says you got to have at least 12 teams if you want to continue on?
I
with
don't know what
bid.
the rules are there. Clearly, it's at least 10 because the Big 10 has been Big 12 has been operating in that space. So it's at least 10. We know that.
We're fascinated by it.
It might be 8.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know the rule.
As far as geography goes, though, I feel like primarily we've already gotten weird. It's already from Provo to Orlando.
And I guess
or Morgantown.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like if you wanted Washington, now you're going Seattle to Orlando. It's quite the trip. And thank goodness there are airplanes. You know, like that makes it a little easier.
Yes, and chartered flights at that.
Like
everybody's chartering now.
We might have an NFL team in Europe at some point. You know what I mean? Like London
world is
to
much
New York
smaller.
is basically the same as like Miami to Seattle, is it not?
The world is much smaller based on advancing technology and planes and capability to get places.
Aeroplanes.
Faster. Yes. Our question of the day: if the Big 12 were to expand, would you rather the conference add teams from the ACC, which sounds like it's not going to happen because they're
not available at the moment, but we're just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Or the Pac-12? Cougar Stats on Twitter says,
here we go.
Anyone but Utah.
Are you in the you don't want Utah in the Big 12 camp, or are you in the you want them in? Because there's the sort of petty and vindictive, like they left us, we owe them nothing, give them nothing. And I'm in the I want them in the league because it's a guaranteed pair of games in league. In basketball and other sports, right? You always play them in everything, no matter what. You play them in football every year. I actually want them in the Big 12.
Rivalry context within a Power 5 conference that idea is really fun. But I understand why some BYU fans, because of the way that they have interacted with certain fans of Utah's fan base.
All named Daryl.
Talent gap, and we just don't need you anymore. And I understand why BYU fans are like, okay, we don't want that here. We don't want it. Go do your own thing, whatever. We're over it. So while I understand that, the rivalry context would be just loaded with details and fun, right? Like, it'd be so fun.
I get both, but I want them in the league. I want them in the Big 12.
At this point, I kind of like that Utah's in their own conference and BYU's in a different conference, and the rivalry matchup that way. So it is Pac-12 versus Big 12, because I have thoroughly enjoyed that little dynamic on
We're
Twitter
not even in the league yet. We haven't even played a Big 12 game.
The Big 12 conference teams just piling on the Pac-12 has been hilarious for me. So I kind of like that. I feel like I'm leaning towards that more than right now BYU and Utah being in the same conference.
And our ad-lib stat of the day is BYU has won as many Rose Bowls as Utah has, and vice versa. So there you go. BYU baseball looks to sweep Pepperdine, get some help to get into the West Coast Conference Tournament. More on that scenario coming up with Greg Wrubell next segment. Game 1 of the regular season series, Thursday, 8 Eastern on the BYU TV and BYU Radio app.
Following just an epic European trip, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell, joins us next. We're going to take a photo journal with Greg. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Bodyguards. Protection for a life worth living.
Introducing the truck for adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown in South Jordan.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
He knows that he's different. He knows that things are hard for him.
Taking the leg was how we could save her life.
I think God put the animals in our path, and I think it is up to us to care for them.
It's like dream come true kind of stuff.
Good job, buddy. You've completed her life.
He loves it so much.
There are happy endings to tragic situations.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. We are live in Studio B alongside Jarom Jordan. I am Spencer Linton. Expansion is on the mind again, and it's due primarily to some recent articles that have brought up just maybe the ACC being involved with the Pac-12, and will the Big 12 be involved here? To join us for that conversation now is the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell, who's hanging out in the Cougar Council room. Greg, welcome to BYU
Greg.
Sports Nation.
Good to see you again, guys.
All right. Like I mentioned, expansion is back on the mind. The idea that the Magnificent Seven from the ACC may be looking to change TV contracts or move conferences. Of course, the Pac-12 has been involved here. How aggressive, if you were in charge in any capacity in the Big 12, would you be in pursuing other entities, whether it's the ACC or the Pac-12?
Well, we already know that Brett Yormark has an aggressive mindset.
Yes.
And you know that he has many irons and multiple fires at this point. On both coasts, I think it's fair to say. If somebody's going to shift and somebody's going to move, I don't see how Brett Yormark's not going to be involved one way or the other in adding to his conference's stature and prominence. Now, the question becomes how big, and how big is too big, and what size is safe. 12 feels like a good number, obviously, for a lot of good reasons, but I wouldn't be surprised if 14 or 16 ends up being the final number if they're the right 2 or 4 teams to be additive. And that's the biggest thing for Brett Yormark has been, we can't be dilutive, we have to be additive. And what really adds cachet and value and eyeballs to your league becomes the question here.
And it's interesting because the grant of rights in the ACC was a 20-year deal through 2036. It feels like they're just stuck. So, yes, the Magnificent Seven. NC State's in the Mag 7. What is super interesting. But there are a few sort of free agents-ish out there, like UConn's interesting in basketball, Gonzaga, obviously, in basketball. How basketball-y does the Big 12 want to be? They're already good enough. And then, of course, Pac-12 poaching at some point is an option. So we'll see what happens here. But what is too big? Because we saw the old WAC with BYU in it, and obviously those weren't Power 5 schools. That was too much. That was too much. What is too much at some point? Like, do you think we'll see a 20-team league at some point?
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk of the 20-team super conference, and I don't know. I think once you get to that, you take almost all of what makes college sports special. I'm kind of a romantic when it comes to college sports, and some of the things that make college sports special are geography, rivalry, and history. You want to have those elements in your group. And I realize that in the Big 12, BYU right now is a geographical outlier, and rivalries will emerge. But there is some history, and it doesn't feel like BYU is a misfit in the Big 12 at all. In fact, it feels like a great fit and the best fit that BYU could have right now. But I think the larger you get, the more you take away from what makes college sports really special. And I hope that can be retained with whatever the Big 12 chooses to do. I do think that bringing in another Western team or two would actually help BYU. It makes BYU less of an outlier that way. So I've actually been a fan of that being part of the strategy. If they choose to go farther up the East Coast or into the Southeast, so be it. Ultimately, Brett Yormark's vision is a coast-to-coast conference. Be in all 4 time zones, have windows from morning till night, and have your product viable. And I can see that happening. But there is a point where I think there is a too big component in this, and I want to retain as many of those what I think are special collegiate sports elements as possible.
Greg Wrubell is with us on BYU Sports Nation. As it stands, 14 teams in the Big 12 for at least one more year. Texas and Oklahoma take off for the SEC on July 1st of 2024. Then it's down to 12, maybe, we think, for a year, unless something crazy happens. But if you look at BYU and the 14 teams involved now, including the Cougars, for this first year of college football, expectations is always a heavy and fun topic. And right now we're seeing the Vegas Lions, who their job is to make money, Greg. It's just to make money and
entice.
Exactly.
Yes.
They set the line, depending on which book you look at 4.5, 5, or 5.5. So how do you take that type of information and manage your own expectations when we all want BYU to win every game?
Well, and over season could be 6, right? And 6 to me is a really fine starting spot in the Big 12. If you're bowl eligible in year 1 of Big 12 membership, I think it's a win. And so let's go with, let's set it at 6, say. Not to take things for granted, but your first 2 games are against a first-year FBS and an FCS. And that, again, Sam Houston just coming out of FCS. So let's say you can get to 2-0 to start your year. Well, now you're trying to find 4 P5 wins in 10 games.
You can do it.
Is that doable?
Yeah.
I think we'd all agree that it is.
That's a historical number that BYU
wins 40%.
Right.
And this team, we've been talking about it, is more prepared for this moment than any other BYU team in history.
The cupboard is by no means bare
right.
for BYU going in. They lost draft picks, but they're I think a pretty good spot going into the Big 12. And I think the underdog mentality, the chip on the shoulder mentality, the first year phenom, all these things might come into play and really have us in a few months going, wow, that was even better than we thought it could go. But that said, if you can find 4 wins out of those 10 P5 games, which is doable, you find yourself at a 6-win season. You find yourself playing in the postseason in your first year in the Big 12, and I think that would be fantastic.
And I think when you're breaking down sort of first half, second half of the season, I think BYU's got to go out and get 4 wins in the first 6 because that back 6 feels tough. And who knows what injuries and ineptitude.
And for both teams, for both sides too. You don't know what the other team will look like on the back half of the season too.
Yes, and getting at Kansas, upstart team from last year, really good quarterback in Jalen Daniels. Cincinnati at home on a Friday night, which is going to be absolutely juiced. Mm-hmm. Like that night is going to feel like Utah 2021, Baylor 22. I think that's going to be a special.
Arizona State, similar vibe.
Yes, where it's like Lavelle Edwards Stadium is packed, night game. BYU's tough to beat it there. Okay, let's talk soccer.
Before we get to real quick, 2 components that I think will play into all of this, that you have to have health and depth.
Yes.
And just I think the more you go along, just keep those 2 words in mind. Do they have the health? Do they have the depth? And I think they've taken steps certainly toward the depth part of it. Mm-hmm. By the guys they're bringing in, it just increases the strength of each position group right now.
And they're not done, which is great.
Right.
They're still going, which is awesome. Okay, soccer. You went with the women's soccer team to Europe. I first want to have you show some of your favorite photos from this and tell us what it is we're looking at, because you guys went on this incredible journey.
Well, first of all, how grateful am I for the invitation that Jen Rockwood issued to join the team. And she did the same thing in 2016 with the Italy trip. So I've been on 2 foreign tours with women's soccer, and they've both been unbelievably horizon expanding experiences, just unbelievable. So first of all, gratitude to Jen and her staff for involving the radio guy and taking him on the trip. But yeah, this trip was, and now keep in mind, I'm going to show, I think, 6 pics. I took hundreds of photos. Okay, I took hundreds of photos.
Yes.
Okay, a lot of them showed up on my social media, Twitter, Instagram, but a lot did not. I've got a lot in the phone. So and it's hard to pick 5 or 6.
You packed a lot of film.
I did. I was developing film like you would not believe.
So much development.
But so these are just a handful. So we're going to start with Vienna. Now, I'm skipping the palaces. We visited 2 palaces in Vienna, but St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, I think was the first. Yeah, here we go.
Oh,
this is St. Stephen's Cathedral. And the ornateness and the size of this thing, and it's not that old. It's only 500 years old.
Only. Oh, it's a newer one.
Right. But I just walked around, and again, you can see a little of the detail there, but the amount of detail in this building was just staggering. So this is St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, and there was a lot to see in Vienna. 2 palaces we're not going to see, but that was Vienna.
If you look close, you can see the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
We went from Vienna to Salzburg, and Salzburg blew me away. Salzburg included a trip out to the Lakes District, and this is a pic. I think you've actually had this pic on your show. This is a pic we took of the girls at the Lakes District, which is just outside of Salzburg, and it's a series of lakes all surrounded by mountains. This is pretty representative of what you're looking at, and we went from lake to lake and town to town, and there were so many charming pics that I didn't include here of these little villages on the lakeside. So the Lakes District was unbelievable, and that was outside of Salzburg. Back in Salzburg, there is a castle, a fortress called the Hohen-Salzburg Fortress. This is the view you get from the top of the fortress. That's Salzburg from the top of the fortress, and that's just one of the many views I had from the top of the fortress. Salzburg blew me away. Birthplace of Mozart, and you can see that in the center part of Salzburg, and that was just one of the beautiful views you get from the fortress. Unbelievable. From Austria, we then headed down to Croatia, but we stopped at the ice caves, Eiswiesenwelt. And this is a picture on the way to the ice caves, but you can see the Austrian Alps in the background. And this is a stop on the way. It's a hike, it's a gondola, it's a hike, and then you're in the ice caves for an hour. And the ice caves themselves are fantastic. I have some social media pics of those. We won't see them here, but this was on the way to the ice caves in the Austrian Alps, and the girls were having a blast. And I just love that shot. It kind of shows everything that Austria is. Then you're down to Croatia. And Croatia just blew my mind. And we were down in Split, and we were in Zadar. We don't have pictures of that, but we have pictures here of Plitvice Lakes National Park in Croatia. And this is one of the countless waterfalls that exist in this place. There are 16 lakes and so many waterfalls you cannot count. And this is a great pic of the team in front of they call the big waterfall.
Incredible.
It's called the big waterfall. So there you go.
Appropriately named.
Yeah. And so up to northern Croatia on the way out. By the way, we skipped totally Slovenia. We were in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which is fantastic. On the way back out, this is Pula, Croatia. This is the arena or the Coliseum in Pula.
Awesome.
This was the construction of this began in like 42 BC. And ended in the 1st century AD.
Wow.
And this is one of 6 surviving Roman Colosseums. Because what you don't get, or what I didn't get before, was that what you see in Croatia is a lot of what you're going to see in Italy. It's right across the Adriatic. And so much what was happening in Italy was happening in Croatia. So this Colosseum, the arena in Pula, Croatia, is reminiscent of the Colosseum in Rome, which I've also seen, and it blew me away as well.
Is this a WCC or Big 12 sized Colosseum?
I think probably Colosseum in Rome is Big 12
for sure.
This may be more
Power 5,
but this is like it's kennel.
It's
the
kennel like.
Yeah, it's pretty big time.
Size.
Pretty big time. Yeah.
Awesome.
So and again, we skipped a lot, but that's just a few of what we had going on.
It's amazing.
We ended up in Italy and flew out of Venice, and wait another 4 years and see if another invite comes.
Yeah,
it's a Greg Wrubell photo journal on BYU Sports Nation.
Awesome, man.
How's real estate down by the fjord, Greg? Look into that for me,
Rick Stevens, a.k.a. Greg Wrubell here.
All right, we do need to talk about the soccer schedule, and it's going to make your life very busy combined with football with the Thursday, Monday setup for BYU women's soccer around Saturday for college football. So what do you think of the women's soccer schedule overall in the Big 12?
Well, the first thing you do know is that the Big 12 stays away from football Saturdays. They let football own the Saturday.
I love that, actually, because then everyone gets their due.
Right, and from an on-campus standpoint and facilities, it just makes it easier to have football have its own day. And so the rest of the league will be on Sundays, of course, but BYU bounces to Monday for obvious reasons. That's one big change. And then, of course, it's a challenge. And Jen was on your show yesterday talking about that challenge of not having a Sunday available. How do you work around it? It'll get get worked around. They'll find a way. There's no doubt about that. And it could be that they make some alterations in their travel plans to give them as many days home as possible or days recovering as possible. It's a challenge, and it's a challenge no one else will have in the league except for the teams that play BYU on those Mondays. But I'm fully confident Jen can find a way to get this done. There are only 2 back-to-back road weekends, Thursday, Monday. BYU have 1 back-to-back home weekend, Thursday, Monday. So we'll see if that evens out over time as well. And most teams BYU's played, or a lot of the teams BYU's played before. And I think the Big 12, top of the Big 12 and top of the WCC, pretty comparable. You might find a little more strength the deeper you go down in the Big 12 than you did in the WCC. But I think at the very top, the 2 leagues are pretty representative of high-caliber competition. So BYU's had a great on-ramp. I think the on-ramp for football was perfect with Independence, playing P5s more and more every year. And the on-ramp for soccer in the Big 12 was good because the WCC was so good at the top of the league.
Awesome stuff. Greg, thanks for the tour of Europe. And, of course, the discussion on expectations for football and soccer.
And shout out to baseball. Let's cross fingers.
Come on.
It's got to be, a lot has to happen. You got to win 3 against Pepperdine, and Gonzaga's got to win 3 somehow at Santa Clara. That gets to BYU. That gets BYU to Las Vegas. That's the only formula right now to get BYU to the WCC tournament. So in a year where BYU has beaten every team in the league at least one time, series were kind of elusive. Series wins were kind of elusive.
Yeah.
But a series sweep is now needed here against Pepperdine, and cross fingers and hope for some help.
Done.
All right.
Get it done.
Good luck to the back cast.
All right.
Greg.
You bet.
Okay, if you missed any interviews, D-Blue shows, European pictures from Greg Wrubell, games, you can find them on BYUSN.com or download the free BYU TV app.
Still on the way, if you could choose one BYU player to have an injury-free career,
That man.
who would it be and why? Why is it not Taysom Hill? This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
When my grandfather started this company in 1947, he couldn't have envisioned what we would ultimately become. We realized that our value to our customers is that we will be there day after day, year after year, doing whatever we need to find solutions to the challenges that they face. We are committed to be honestly better in all that we do, in every opportunity that we have to serve our customers.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
The heroes are taking over Saturday mornings on BYU TV. Heroes who are brave, smart, and wield magical powers. Heroes who are good friends, problem solvers, and kind to everyone. Heroes who work together to lift and inspire, to make someone's day. Watch your favorite heroes in action Saturday mornings on BYU TV, and then go be a hero yourself.
Follow BYU Sports Nation on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Alongside Jarom Jordan, I am Spencer Linton. Welcome back to your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. Let's whip it! Cougar Whip Round presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
You can choose one BYU player to have an injury-free career. This has been a popular question on social media. Now we make it BYU. At BYU or in the pros. Who you take?
How do you
Taysom Hill?
not lean so heavily toward Taysom Hill and his four separate season-ending injuries? Jarom, just take one of those away. And how different things could be is kind of mind-blowing.
I want 2014 specifically.
Yes.
Because BYU jumped out to be 4-0, was ranked 19th, hosted Utah State. Tough start in the first half. Who knows if BYU comes back and wins that game? But
if Taysom Hill's in the
only
game,
had 3 P5s that year and did not have Utah. That very easily could have been a validating independent season we were seeking.
That was the final year of the BCS setup. It was before it went to the college football playoff and the other 4 big bowl games. Yeah, it would have been BYU's best shot, right?
That's something.
There are some others that are intriguing. Tyson Williams, if he doesn't get hurt against Washington early in that season, what does 2019 become? I think BYU, instead of a 7-win team, is probably at least a 9-win team. He's an NFL running back, right? So, yeah, those are some fun scenarios. Or not so fun scenarios.
Yeah.
The NFL announced yesterday that Peacock will get an exclusive live-streamed playoff game this season. So are BYU fans ready for a similar type scenario beginning this season with ESPN+?
Listen, if BYU is not on Fox, FS1, let's not hope for FS2, ESPN, ABC, ESPN2, or ESPNU, guess what? They're on ESPN+. So get ready for that this fall. I anticipate 2+ games will be on ESPN+.
You might as well subscribe to that Hulu, Disney, ESPN+
Just do the HBO Max add-on right now. Just get it all done. BYU Men's Hoop Sports Information Director Tyson Jex tweeted on Friday that Foos and Ali Khalifa actually played against each other before in the 2017 FIBA U16 Championships African final. Foos scored 15, included 3 threes. He doesn't shoot threes. He should shoot threes. Romali Khalifa scored 18 for Egypt. How excited are you to see this duo who's competed in Africa against each other play for BYU now?
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see how Khalifa can utilize his excellent skill set with passing to try and create some opportunities for Foos. Like, I want to see that high-low dynamic between the two of them.
Little Draymond, Jokic,
yes,
key stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun dynamic for them. The Twitter account College Basketball Report, speaking of hoops, tweeted a photo of some of the all-time NCAA statistical leaders, including Kyle Collinsworth. What do you feel, Jarom, when you see Kyle Collinsworth on the list for most triple-doubles in NCAA history?
Yeah, lower right here. It's just incredible what he accomplished there. It was so fun to watch. One of the most unique players in BYU history in any sport. His ability to be so good at scoring, rebounding, and assisting was incredible to watch. And coming off an ACL tear early in his career.
What if he's the player that doesn't get injured in the West Coast Conference Championship game in 2014 and tear his ACL?
BYU doesn't win the game, but maybe they beat Oregon in the first round.
Maybe they win a tournament game.
Maybe they win a tournament.
So he's one for sure.
That wouldn't be like if I could play like one card for an injury. That's not the card I'm playing, but certainly would have been interesting to see.
I know he did it 12 times, but I see that number and I'm like, you had 12 triple-doubles.
12 is crazy. And it wasn't like Russell Westbrook forced, get out of the way, I'm getting the rebound thing. It was just natural.
Organically. Yeah. Yes, organically happened.
It was grass-fed, if you will.
Right? There were a few where he's like, hey, you need 1 rebound, like whatever.
Sure.
But for the most part, it was organic. Also, the next closest is Shaquille O'Neal with 6. Like, he's doubled that.
So it's fun to have something more than Shaq.
He's doubled that number. That's pretty
Other than bunions? Yeah. You don't want more of those.
Still on the way. Head coach Heather Olmstead of BYU Women's Volleyball joins Jarom to go one-on-one, break down the schedule, talk about, riding camels in Egypt and whatnot. I'm just glad they made time for us to break down the first Big 12 slate. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Dexter & Dexter is a full-service law firm offering a wide range of legal services. Since 1995, we have helped more than 20,000 Utahns both to navigate life's challenges and to make the most of life's opportunities. From personal injury to business law, and from adoption to bankruptcy, we are passionate about shouldering your burdens. To learn more about scheduling a no-obligation consultation, visit dexterlaw.com.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
My name is Sylvester Caldwell III, and I love baseball. I wasn't very good at it. What's the point of playing if I can't help the team win? But then something happened that changed everything. Who are you?
Just a friend who's played a little ball.
Babe Ruth is coaching me? I know you're a fraud and a cheater. The magic is gone, and I don't have it anymore. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but maybe it'd be better if you undid it.
Kid, that was you knocking the ball out of the park. The only thing I did was help you to believe in yourself.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation live in Studio B. The Big 12 BYU women's volleyball schedule is out for all to see. It opens with a Cougar versus Cougars matchup in the Smith Fieldhouse Wednesday, September 20th. Houston's a really good program. Baylor then comes in on September 23rd, and 2 at Texas on September 28th and 29th to begin, Jarom. A lot of fun with the schedule.
5 teams were ranked in the new Big 12 last year in the final poll of the AVCA, and 2 received votes. That's 7 of 13 teams that at least got votes. I mean,
amazing.
Including BYU, which is crazy. The national champs, of course, second most ranked teams in the final poll to the 6th in the Big 10. And yesterday I spoke with women's volleyball head coach Heather Olmstead from Cairo, Egypt, where the team is on their foreign trip, to talk about the schedule, riding camels, seeing the pyramids, and much more. Heather, how's Egypt? It looks amazing on social media.
It's been a good time. It's been pretty amazing. We're happy to be here. And actually, we fly out tomorrow to Turkey, so it's been great.
Why choose these specific countries of Egypt, Turkey, and Greece?
Yeah, I think it's just a great combination of different culture, different parts of the world, somewhat close together, where we could do some flights that weren't too bad and be able to see very, very different cultures from Egypt to Turkey and then Greece, and get some different food, get some different volleyball. And so far, Egypt hasn't disappointed. It's been pretty fantastic. The people here have been wonderful, and we're looking forward to getting hit up 2 other countries.
More on the trip coming up in a moment, but let's talk about the news of the day. Of course, the conference schedule is out, which is exciting. We've been waiting for BYU to be in the Big 12. Here we are. You've seen this for a minute. So what stuck out when you first saw it, and what do you like, and what kind of has your attention?
Yeah, I think it's super exciting to release Cougar Nation and the public, what our fall is going to look like at home and away, and get people excited about traveling with us and possibly coming to the Smith Fieldhouse and seeing us play at home. I think just the opportunity to play new teams and new places and learn about the style of plays is exciting. I think that's the number one thing that sticks out, is just a new challenge for us with all these teams and figuring out, how we can compete with them. And for sure, being able to play the defending national champs Texas is always a highlight. And so I think that's really neat for our team to be able to get to Austin and play matches out there.
In terms of how it shook out, you play some teams once, some teams twice. What's kind of been the explanation from the league as to how that shook out?
Yeah, I've only been on 1 phone call, and it was more of a, hey, the new teams can sit in and listen. And we weren't a part of those conversations at all. I don't even know why they went to that format. And so we're excited to play, home and away with who we've got on our schedule. And that'll change the following year when 2 members exit the conference, and we'll have a different look and format. And we haven't been given any word on what that looks like. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's unique. It's going to be a challenge, just the way that, you're not playing everyone the same amount of times and home and away. I think it's going to be interesting for our team and for our fans to follow along.
Houston on September 20th as the opener is really fun. That's a team that, finished 17th in the country last year. Baylor number 15 on, a couple days later. So out of the gate, you play some great volleyball. And the West Coast Conference has had tremendous volleyball. And now you kind of up the ante a little bit with the national champs and a few more teams that kind of bring it week to week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited just to get these new teams in the Smith Fieldhouse and open up with Houston. I think that's a great match for us to have our debut match and to welcome Houston and go from there, and then get Baylor, like you said. So there's a lot of good teams in the Big 12, and we're going to have our hands full, and we're excited for the challenge, and we're ready to see how our team fares against them.
End of the season at West Virginia at TCU. This is going to be a different kind of travel than you've had, right? Going into LA and San Francisco and Portland and so on.
Absolutely. We're fired up. We get to spend Thanksgiving on the road, and I don't know, there's no better place than to be with your team at that time of the year, hopefully getting ready to finish out the year strong and make a run in the conference and hopefully in the NCAA tournament. So no complaints there. Excited again to see different parts of the country and to be together. And I think it'll be exciting.
A foreign trip doesn't mean you're going to have a good year, but for some reason, it seems like you always have a good year when you have a foreign trip, like the chemistry of being off the court and going somewhere else. So is this the perfect year to have a foreign trip, the first year in the Big 12?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons. We had 4 freshmen graduate early and get with us in January, and we're adding a couple more freshmen and transfers. And so the opportunity for us to mesh, we've got everyone here, but one player that will join us in the fall. And so just to be with each other and to get to know each other better in very unique circumstances and have those conversations and those experiences, that's going to serve us well. So yeah, it seems like teams have good years after. I know it's not a guarantee, but you just get a jump start on that connection and getting ready for the fall. And we're hoping that's what does it for this group. And this trip has been postponed because of COVID. And we just felt like these seniors, it was the right time with the combination of the freshmen and the new players to get this opportunity to come experience foreign countries and foreign, teams and really challenge ourselves.
Okay, you guys did something really cool that we talked about on the show on Monday, which is the 3 graduates who missed graduation. You packed their graduation stuff and took a photo in front of one of the pyramids. That is so awesome. What was that moment like?
Yeah, those 3 have been with us since January, so they've already graduated high school, but they still have the opportunity. They're all 3 local players. They actually walk next week, and the dates ended up that they would be missing that to be with our group. And we felt it was really important to give them this opportunity to take some pictures that, they maybe are missing out on at a stadium or with their friends and peers and family, which they hopefully still get at a different time, and do something special and unique. I don't know, Jarom, there's something about that moment for those players and our staff and team to see and to know that everyone here is sacrificing a little bit. It's a long trip. We're all sacrificing to be here, but they sacrificed something that was important to them, and we wanted to make sure they were seen and heard, and it was really, really a cool moment.
Brielle Miller, Mia Lee, and of course Selena Demouni. So
yep.
That nice job to them. Yeah, Mia. Okay, Turkey and Greece. What are you guys going to see there? And you mentioned you played the Egyptian national team already. How'd the match go, by the way?
Yeah, we played last night, and it was great. It was unbelievable. They have some great players. They have an Olympian that plays sand that was on their indoor team and was there last night. They were actually missing a couple players that are D1 players that play in college, but they're older, they're mature, they have some swag, and they were ready for us. And we haven't practiced and done anything since last Tuesday, so we loved the opportunity to get out there. Warm-ups are different here. They're about 15 minutes. You don't get your typical serve pass, and we love the pace. It was unique. It was challenging. They really served and passed well, and so it was a good opportunity for us to play our first match on this trip. And I thought our players did a good job sticking together, and we're with them in a couple sets, but they're a good team, and it was fun.
In Turkey and Greece, give me a little tease, a little sense of what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, we're actually going to go visit some younger refugee athletes in some areas. I don't know that we'll post that stuff, but we get a chance to interact with some refugees in Turkey and do some work there as soon as we land tomorrow. And then we actually have 3 matches in a row against some of the pro teams in Turkey, which will be really good for our group to play some of the best teams in the world. And they happen to be in Turkey, and that's going to be really cool for our players to match up against some professional players. And we'll see some mosques and see some of the sites of Istanbul and really get to experience the culture and the food there. And Greece, same thing. We're going to play the U19 team, their national U19 team. And we're going to see some different cities, a little bit outside of Athens. And we're going to do a yacht. We're going to take a cruise or a yacht, have a yacht day and go out and see some islands.
So you guys roll.
It's going by so fast. And so we're just kind of trying to soak it in as best we can.
Well, congrats on getting the Big 12 schedule. And, now I know what I'm doing this fall, which is exciting. We look forward to it, of course, on ESPN Plus and whatnot. That all has to be shaken out a little bit. But when can we expect the non-conference schedule to come out, by the way?
Yeah, I think pretty quickly after this gets released. We're still shoring up a few things, but we're excited about that. I think there's going to be some interest in our opening match. So we'll put that little teaser out there and hope to get that out soon so we can get excited about that. But I think within a couple weeks after we get back sometime in June.
Okay, awesome. Safe travels and have fun. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you all. Thanks for having me.
Technology is pretty incredible that she can just, join you from Egypt.
So I was like, hey, anything cool, out the window that we could see during the interview in a sec? And she's like, well, it's just some soccer fields, but yeah, you could see the Nile River down there. It was at night, 9 hours later.
That's
wild.
Like, what?
This is crazy.
The Nile. Was there a murder on the Nile?
Unfortunately, in a movie, there was. Yeah.
It's exciting stuff with the first Big 12 women's schedule out for BYU. And to adequately celebrate it on Top 5 Tuesday, we're looking at the top 5 Big 12 women's volleyball programs all time. We'll count them next on BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
He knows that he's different. He knows that things are hard for him.
Taking the leg was how we could save her life.
I think God put the animals in our path, and I think it is up to us to care for them.
It's like dream come true kind of stuff.
Good job, buddy. You've completed her life.
He loves it so much.
There are happy endings to tragic situations.
Today was a great day.
You're going to feel the energy of all these volunteers.
I'm excited to get out into the world and see who else is making good.
And you're going to meet some of the most amazing people.
And we will all just lift each other up.
What we do is we create memories for families.
And you realize just how good people are.
It does take a village.
It's definitely been a journey.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Aaron Livingston's going to have a lot of those this fall. Yep. BYU Sports Nation's on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU Radio apps. And hey, there's a podcast. You can subscribe, rate, and review it as well.
Let's roll out Top 5 Tuesday, which counts down the top 5 women's volleyball programs all time in the currently constituted Big 12. Beginning with number 5.
Iowa State, 16 tournament appearances, 2 Elite Eights, 5 Sweet 16s. They've had 3 first-team All-Americans. They finished 4th in the Big 12 last year. BYU hosts the Cyclones October 19th through the 20th.
Every match matters. So much fun. Number 4, Baylor. 10 NCAA tournament appearances all time. Final 4 in 2019. They were the Big 12 champions in that same year. Finished second last year in the Big 12. And they play BYU on September 23rd in Provo.
Finished 15th in the ABC poll. UCF is number 3, Division II champs in 1978, 14 NCAA tournament appearances. They've won 14 conference tournaments as well. They made the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row. They were ranked 22nd last year. The Cougars play in Orlando November 9th through the 10th. Disney World, let's go.
At number 2, Brigham Young University.
Oh, bias pick.
34 NCAA tournament appearances, 3 NCAA Final Fours, runner-up in 2014 when they were unseeded, the only unseeded team to ever do that.
Amazing.
8 West Coast Conference championships, 10th most All-Americans among Division I programs, and of course made another run to the second round of the NCAA tournament. This is a team that they don't get to the Sweet 16, Jarom. It kind of feels like a disappointment. They're on that level.
If there was no Texas, BYU would be the best program historically and currently in the Big 12 right now. But number 1 is Texas. Reigning national champs, 4-time national champs overall, 3 in the NCAA era, 13 Final Fours, 14 Big 12 titles, 35 first-team All-Americans. BYU plays at Texas September 28th through 29th. I was hoping that one would be at home or that it'd be just one match. But it's 2 at Texas, so can BYU go and get the split? That would be awesome.
I wish it were October 28th so that we could watch BYU play Texas in football and then BYU play Texas in volleyball.
That would be great.
Hey, it's cool to be in this conference competing with so many high-level teams.
They don't avoid football per se, but I think they do in that town, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. Our question of the day. If the Big 12 conference were to expand, would you rather the conference add teams from the ACC? This is based on an article from Ross Dellinger recently.
Available, but we're just talking.
Or is it the Pac-12, which we still don't know what their TV deal is going to be? Still
waiting.
Our elite voice of the day, presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated, comes from Daniel Ormsby on Twitter, who says, it'd depend on which teams are options. Sure. I'd love to bring traditional rivals back like Arizona and Arizona State.
Like
Me too.
Whack.
Me too.
Rivals.
But the ACC has some super strong, well-known programs, including Miami, Florida State, Duke, and North Carolina. Overall, strengthening the conference should be the main goal. Will it be a basketball emphasis or a football emphasis?
If it's a basketball emphasis, go get Gonzaga and UConn right now.
Yeah, or sway Duke and North Carolina.
You're in a league till 36.
I know.
That's not an option.
It's my fantasy land, okay? Rise and Shout Out, presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics, goes to, we talked about him earlier in the show, Mr. Triple Double and his wife, Shay, an outstanding track athlete at BYU. They're expecting their second child, a baby girl,
Congrats.
On the way in June.
Nice.
Our thanks to today's guests, Greg Wrubell and Heather Olmstead, all the way from Egypt.
Sorry to Dennis Pitta, we ran out of time. If you were in Cairo, we would have had you on too. Then.
Maybe so. For Jarom, I am Spencer. Shout out to Elaine Michaelis. We'll see you tomorrow for another live edition of BYU Sports Nation. Go Cougs.